What if everything you think you know about the multiverse is wrong? Most people conflate alternate timelines with the term alternate dimensions. Do you know the difference between the two? I'm going to reveal the truth. In this video, I'm sharing what higher dimensional extraterrestrial beings showed me. That our reality is not what we think it is. This is the truth about how the multiverse actually works. In June of 2022, I made contact with a higher dimensional extraterrestrial mantis being who initiated me into the knowledge of the multiverse. Everything that I share with you is a direct result of my experiences in other dimensions and realities. The first thing you should know about the multiverse is that everything you think you know and everything that you have been told about our reality is completely wrong. Now, I used to believe in infinite timelines. I used to teach that, but that was before I was actually shown by a being who is from a higher dimension. I was actually shown what really is going on, and it is far crazier than anything I could have imagined. I discovered that people confuse and conflate the terms multiverse, alternate universe, alternate timelines, alternate dimensions. Again, do you know the difference between these words? Each of these terms are vastly different, and it is impossible to understand what the multiverse is without knowing the actual definition of each phrase and how they differ. So, as I said, I used to teach the idea that we live in a multiverse with infinite timelines, where, however, imagine yourself in some other reality. Well, if you can imagine it, it has to exist. And that means that there's a version of you that's living that out, and there's infinite numbers of them. And so a lot of people will try and manifest their reality by trying to pick the perfect timeline and jump timelines. Now, actually, that is pretty close to the truth, but it is an understanding that is limited by our third dimensional reality. Because of the way that we experience time, we think that time is a linear track that, it's like being on a train and we can't get off of it and it's only going in one direction. But reality is much stranger than that. So let's start with the word multiverse. The multiverse is not a universe with infinite coexisting timelines branching off into the past and future. I personally found out from my travels and communications with extraterrestrials that there is no such thing as a timeline, let alone multiple timelines. However, that does not mean that there aren't multiple realities coexisting. There are infinite probable realities at any given moment in time. Okay, so that's different. I use my words very carefully. I didn't say possible realities, I said probable realities. But I also said there are infinite numbers of probable realities. So the question is, what makes one reality more probable than another? To understand how probable realities work, we need to first clear up our misperception of time. There are no timelines because there is no such thing as past or future. A practical example of this is the Mandela effect. The reason why the past is changing from our perspective is because our perception of the present is changing, which creates a different view of the past when we look back at it. What I mean by our perception of reality is changing is that we are going through a frequency shift. So this is a real thing. People are talking about the shift, they are talking about ascension, they're talking about the 5D shift. That is something that is actually happening. And so what we are just now beginning to do is we're beginning to shift our perception of ourselves, our relationship to the universe and what the universe is, and we're waking up to lies that we used to just believe about reality. And so what that's doing is that is changing our ability to choose probable realities. So the Mandela effect is really just a reflection of the idea that we are shifting our perceptions. So instead of there being infinite timelines with a different reality, instead, there are infinite probable realities available to us at any given moment in time. Our perception of the present moment manifests based on the most likely probable reality available for our brains to perceive. Realities with the highest probability are most likely to become manifest. What determines the percentage of probability is the focus, intentions, emotions, and actions taken by humans in the third dimension. All right, so that's a lot to unpack, so let's take a look at it. So many scientists have said, I don't know if there's many, there are some scientists that have said that our brain is not an organ. What it is it's actually a piece of physical technology, biotechnology, that allows us to take infinite probable realities that are coming at us through what they called quantum waves. And our brain is able to take all those quantum waves and reduce it to one, and then grab onto that one, and then have our perception focus on that one probable reality. Just like switching, back in the days, if you were old enough, you remember, you walked up to the television and there was a switch, and you switched it from channel 2 to channel 3 to channel 4. Your brain is a channel changer, and it's able to grab onto quantum waves and manifest in your perception one reality, which becomes your complete and total experience. So we live in a multiverse, not because there are multiple timelines, but because there are multiple probable realities within our third dimension. But we can only experience one of them at a time. And what ends up happening is that when that happens, we have a perception. With that perception, we have an emotional experience. We have a perspective. We see an event happening from a certain perspective, a physical perspective, emotional perspective, and then that creates a memory within us. That memory then goes into the past, and we look back and we see our memory. But that experience doesn't exist anymore. It stopped existing. So to drill down further on the nature of time, each moment of the present in the third dimension is created individually with no connection to the past or the future. We create the past based on our perceived memory of the past. If we remember the Roman Empire, for instance, the Roman Empire will show up archaeologically in the past. If we forget the Roman Empire, it will never have existed. This again explains the Mandela effect of people having different memories of the past, and with historical evidence showing that events that actually never happened. Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. So that doesn't mean if somebody is uneducated and has never heard of the Roman Empire, doesn't mean that the Roman Empire won't exist archaeologically. What it means is that human beings as a whole, if the majority of human beings have this memory of the Roman Empire, it exists, whether or not the Roman Empire actually existed. How do I know that? Because there's a Mandela effect called the Black Tom event. Now, if you are my age, you know that the Black Tom event never happened. It came into our understanding of the past very recently. And it is a really good example of the Mandela effect because there's actual archaeological evidence that proves that the Black Tom event happened in the past according to the physical reality that we live in. However, the Black Tom event never happened. What does that mean? It means that our physical reality, when we dig things and pull them out of the ground, things that are 500 or 1,000 years old that prove the Romans existed, that is something that is created in this moment, which means we create the memories of our past. That's why the Mandela effect is happening, because there is a shift that is going on that is shifting our perception of so many different things that not everybody has the same memory of the past anymore, which means things pop up in the archaeological record, like the Black Tom event, that never happened. Does that make sense? Our perception of it changes the physical reality. Let's talk more about that. So time is like a deck of cards. Each moment we perceive is one card in the deck. The most likely probable reality will manifest unless we do something to change our perception of ourselves. Since the most likely probable reality appears because we maintain a certain perception of ourselves, we then experience each moment as a part of an endless, predictable stream of time that is outside of our control. But the truth is that you have the power to decide what the next moment will become based on the card that you choose. When you change your perception of yourself, the likely probabilities also change, and then your perception of reality changes. If there is a massive change in your perception of yourself, the next moment will manifest a much less likely probability, which you will perceive as a timeline shift. Okay, so let me unpack that for you. So, we have these probable realities. So the most likely probable reality is going to be based on your internal narrative. Who you are, what you're good at, where you were born, I'm good at this, I'm bad at that, the world is this, the world is that, the emotions that you have on it, the actions that you take based on all of that. That is going to, imagine like, there's a wheel of probable realities. Every time that you focus on your perception of yourself, that wheel of probable realities turns until the one that is most in line with your view of yourself lines up in front of you, and then you walk into that moment. Now, because most people maintain the same, they tell themselves the same thing over and over every day. Mostly negative. They tell themselves the same negative things over and over every single day. Then what ends up happening is that the probable realities line up so that you have a reality that matches the one that you were just experiencing. So if your perception of yourself changes drastically, and you go from thinking you're this tiny little human being that is created by an outside force, and you're a victim of circumstances, and there are evil archons out there trying to kill you, and that the devil is taking you to hell, and I have to pray and have God forgive me of my sins. As long as you have that, you're going to create the reality that reflects that. If your reality changes and you all of a sudden realize, wait a minute, I'm an eternal being. Not only am I not a created being, I'm one of the beings that created this reality. Not only that, I'm among the most powerful of beings that ever existed. And the beings that I used to think of as guides and spirits and angels actually look to me as a more powerful being. Now that's a huge shift in reality if you really believe that. What's going to happen is the wheel of probable realities is going to shift drastically to line up with that. And then boom, that reality will manifest itself. Again, now you understand what's happening with the Mandela effect. There are some people's reality is shifting drastically and other people's aren't. Or their reality is shifting even further into the negative, which is why the Black Tom event is now a reality. Because there are a lot of people on this planet now who have a much more negative understanding of themselves in this world, and so our history has now become more negative and more violent and more worse than before. Does that make sense? So right now, things are all up in the air. But once there's enough people, if enough people have a positive shift of perception of themselves, what's going to happen is the collective probable reality is going to shift drastically. And then the 5D will appear. And maybe it'll be as a result of a solar flash event or who knows what. We may even have the experience that we're caught up in some wave of, vibrational reality that shifts us. But what really happened is that enough people, whatever the percentage is, there's a percentage of people that when they have an upgrade in the awareness of themselves, the collective unconscious probable reality shifts completely, and then reality matches that. I hope that makes sense. So the fastest way to change your probable reality is to awaken to your higher dimensional identity. The fastest way to do that is to achieve energetic and telepathic connection with a person that currently exists in a higher dimension. Such an entity will be able to perceive your higher dimensional identity and show it to your third dimensional self. Now, if you are able in your third dimensional reality to accept what you are shown, your perception of reality will begin to change. When enough humans are able to incorporate an internal experience of their higher dimensional identity, then the third dimension as we know it will manifest a present moment of reality so improbable that we will perceive a frequency of reality so completely different from what we have perceived in the past that we will then call it the 5D Earth. Okay, I hope that makes sense, what I just said. That we have to work on shifting our identity. It's more than just shifting our beliefs. It is completely shifting to our identity. And so what human beings are going through is what people in the past spent their entire lives trying to experience. A death to the ego, people will call it. Odin's transformation on the Tree of Life, where he died to himself. This is what human beings all have to go through, and we all have to go through it very quickly. This is why people are experiencing what is called ascension symptoms. Those are real things, but they're not happening to us. They're happening because our identity is trying to shift itself. But we are so locked into our probable reality that we've been living for 13,000 years. We're so locked into it that to shift into another understanding of ourselves feels like it's killing us. So it's very frightening. People are flipping out. Many people are awakening, and a lot of people are also flipping out and going in the other direction. So what can we do about it? The second fastest way to change our perception of ourselves, which should be done also while we are doing the first fastest way, is to release the higher dimensional divine feminine lightning power within our heart center. This is what the Maoshan Taoist called the Shi, or the heart protector. This energy is a sixth dimensional electromagnetic energy that is so powerful it can completely destroy this third dimension if it were completely released without any control or direction. Now don't worry, that's not going to happen. The Shi energy practices gives humans the power to deliberately shift their frequency to a higher dimensional vibration that destroys the third dimensional perception of reality. When these two methods of reality perception are used, the new 5D Earth perception will occur. The only question is, are you willing to die to your current perception of yourself and Earth? So there's an internal and external force working on us. Externally, there is the actual frequency and the Earth herself. So the Earth herself is going through a huge, huge transformation right now. By the way, so is the sun. The sun is going through a huge transformation. Might as well everybody, include everybody. So are all the rest of the planets in our solar system. All of these physical parts of our third dimensional reality are going through a massive shift. So that's affecting us. There's no way for it not to affect us. So that's the external part. We have control over that as well. The more that we interact with it and intend for that to happen, the more that it will. In fact, if you haven't done it already, please come and join us in the live guided interdimensional meditations, which we do every Wednesday and Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on this YouTube channel. It is free. If you're not able to make it at that time, 8:30 p.m. Wednesday and Saturday, then you can go to the live section on my YouTube channel and you can pick any one of them. It doesn't matter if you pick one from a year ago or the one we did last week. If you do it with an open mind and with a sincere heart, you're going to have an experience. So that, again, that is the step one, reaching out and communicating directly to higher dimensional beings. And as I said, they'll be able to show you from their perspective your higher dimensional self. How is that? So imagine that you're a third dimensional person. Now imagine that you can see a second dimensional being. Now this being doesn't know what up or down is. It can only go forward, backward, left, and right. It is so limited. It also has much less energy. It has much less ability to think. Its spirituality is completely dualistic, but that's okay. It's a two-dimensional being. It's not supposed to be anything beyond that. But you can see that two-dimensional being has a soul, and then that soul actually exists in the third dimension. And you can look at that and you can go, oh my God, this being is so much bigger than what they experience. And that reality is so completely different to what they experience. So imagine you communicate with that two-dimensional being, and that two-dimensional being somehow, it's going to get flipped out by you because you're a higher dimensional being, you're a 3D being. So its experience of you is going to be totally mind-bending to it. But imagine that it's able to communicate with you. And you say, I wish you could see what you're really like. I can see your entire soul. And I can communicate with the higher parts of your soul. And you're so amazing and you're so beautiful. And imagine that two-dimensional being going, I have no idea what you're talking about. And you say, let me show you. And you take some of your third dimensional energy and you lend it to that two-dimensional being that it normally wouldn't have. And all of a sudden, for a brief moment, that two-dimensional being is now able to go and experience up and down and see things from another perspective. And it only lasts for a little bit, and then they're back into the second dimension. And they go, oh my God, I think I'm going insane. I think I'm losing my mind. This is crazy. And then you go, and then they start saying, that didn't just happen. That's not possible. You go, yes, it is. If that being is able to keep talking to you, you're going to try and convince it how beautiful and powerful it is. That's exactly what happens with these higher dimensional beings when you communicate with them. If you ask them, they'll never force it on you because they're your family, they're your friends. It's just like I described. They see you and they remember you and see you as this much larger, higher dimensional being because you were before you came to Earth. So if you ask them, show me my true self, they will begin to give you an experience of yourself. Now you have to take that, you have to accept that, you have to die to your smaller self and allow yourself to shift. But when you do, everything begins to change. And this is the first method. So the second method is we are going to, the second method gives you the ability to have control. So remember I talked about the television? We walked up and we would switch the channels and we could, turn up the volume or the brightness or the color. We could, do all that kind of stuff. We had to do it manually on our television. Well, you can do that physically. You can physically shift up the frequency within you. You can tone it down. You have the ability to do that. Most people don't know that, so they are a victim of circumstance. They need to have a spiritual experience that blows them out of the water, but then they're not able to handle it. This is why there are people that have Kundalini psychosis. They don't have the ability to monitor and control what's happening inside of them. So imagine if you had access, if you had the remote control. But on the remote control, there's a special little button that gives you access to a turbocharged energy that nobody else has access to unless they know where to find it. This is the second method. So the first step to achieving this shift is to do the interdimensional meditations on this channel and create a personal relationship with the beings in higher dimensions. The second step is to do the practices associated with Maoshan lightning energy work. So to experience that, you go to thunderwizard.com, click on Shop, and get the Summoning the Immortals Qigong and or the Celestial Qigong and or subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. All right, so this is what you do. If you want to experience that, if you want to get access to that, it's in your body right now, but it has to be awakened. And I'm here to tell you no other practice will awaken it. I know because I've done them all. Not Kundalini Yoga, not mantra, not Qigong, not prayer, not meditation, not fill in the blank. I know that they won't do it. There's only one practice. That's because this energy is too powerful. It has been too powerful for human beings to safely use. You know, there is a possibility for people to turn into Darth Vaders. They have all this power, but they don't have the consciousness to go along with it. So this has been kept secret, not only by humans, but by higher dimensional beings as well. But it's been here with us so that we can have it when we need it. We need it. The earth is shifting, and people are now able to handle this. So, the Grand Master of the Maoshan, who just recently passed away a few years ago, he was asked about it, and people asked him, have you ever shared your entire knowledge with one person? And he said, no, I didn't ever teach the whole thing to one person. And his response was, because this generation can't handle it. Now that was the generation before. This generation, just in the past few years, can handle it. The light beings who transmitted this energy to those spiritual masters over the past thousands of years have said it is now time to release this. And I don't know of anybody else who's teaching this. I don't even know if there's anybody else alive practicing this stuff. To be honest with you, I'm one of the last, if not the last. There's probably a few out there somewhere. But I'm the only one that I know of that is publicly giving the knowledge. And the light beings have told me that they want me to share this with the world, and they have given me more practices. And these practices open up this power. So you can have both aspects. You can have the light beings awaken you to this power, stimulate it, and then you can take the remote control and you can do the controls yourself. And when you do both, then you can handle the shift. Not only can you physically handle the shift as it's happening, but you can handle more and more higher dimensional interactions with beings on levels we can't even begin to imagine. This is so that we can shift up to this 5D world. And in this 5D world, this energy, this lightning energy, as we call it here, it's a sixth dimensional energy. When we get to the new 5D world, everybody will have access to it. So this is, listen. And for those people who are meant to become, I'm going to talk about this in a second, people who are meant to become protectors, guardian angels, those are real things. People talk about Michael the Archangel. Michael the Archangel is one of those beings. He is a being who has a huge amount of this energy, and he uses it to go down and protect humans from negativity. These beings do exist, and there's going to be a need for these as we all shift up to a higher dimension, not only to protect the people in that higher dimension, but also to help those who haven't shifted up. And for them, you will be an archangel coming down and saving them. So if you want to be one of those people, you have to learn this power. So, okay, so level 1 is to go to thunderwizard.com, click on shop. So here it is. You go to thunderwizard.com, and on the menu, you will see memberships, and then you'll see a word shop. Click on shop, and then you'll scroll around, and you see the one in the center at the bottom, Mao Shan Summoning the Immortals Moving Qigong. Get that, so that you can feel the energy. I don't want you to take my word for it. This isn't a religion. It's not a cult. It's not about whether you believe me. In fact, you should go out of your way to prove me wrong through your experience. I only teach things that I've experienced. I never teach anything that I just read in a book that sounds good. If I do, I will tell you that. I will say, this sounds good to me. I haven't experienced it. But I have experienced this. And I'm telling you the truth as I've experienced it, and I want you to have that same experience. In fact, I want you to try and prove me wrong. If you do the Summoning the Immortals Moving Qigong with an honest and an open mind and with a sincere intention to prove whether or not there's energy here, I guarantee you will have an experience. And then you'll know that I'm not making it up. So you go to the shop at thunderwizard.com. It will create a connection, an interdimensional portal to higher dimensional beings that will begin to work with your energy. They channeled this practice through me because that's what they wanted to accomplish. And if you talk to people who do it, they will tell you that it works. Okay. If you see to the right of it, Celestial Qigong. That is the foundation of the Mao Shan energy work. That has the basic postures, the basic movements, and if you do them, this lightning energy will be released into your nervous system, into your meridians, into your body. So that is just, again, if you do it, you'll know, you'll find out. Again, thunderwizard.com, click on shop, there they are. Now, the other thing that you can do is, you notice what I say here is get the Summoning the Immortals Qigong and or the Celestial Qigong and or subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. I don't need you to do all three of them. If you do all three of them, good for you. I think everybody should, but do whichever ones you want. So another thing that is important is to connect the Kundalini and the Chi to the Shi. So when you get all these three connected, you have all of the spiritual powers, the spiritual energies. So that's what I give you practices that will take you through all that. Kundalini Yoga, Mantra, Qigong, and Lightning Qigong, as well as runes and a bunch of other stuff. And that there's even more advanced stuff on there if you get to phase 3. So for that, you go to you go to thunderwizard.com, which is my Patreon site, and this time you click on the menu that says memberships. You scroll around, you see Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, you click on that. You join that. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe whenever you want. Some people complain and they say there's too much stuff here. I'm like, well, then just do what you want. Do what you're comfortable with. Nobody's forcing you to do the whole thing. I mean, wouldn't you like to have more than you can handle instead of not have enough? There's so much stuff on there. So do whatever you're comfortable with, as much or as little as you want. So those are the 3 things to do if you're just getting started. You do the Summoning the Immortals, the Celestial Qigong, and or subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. Now, if you've done one or all 3 of those, and you believe you are destined to become a spiritual protector or a guardian angel, then you go to maoshan.thunderwizard.com. maoshan.thunderwizard.com. You can get the practices starting with the 5-element spirit fighting forms, and then there's more to come. And you can start with the 5-element spirit fighting forms, and once you've gotten the 5-element spirit fighting forms, you can then move on to the Hands of Infinity, which is the first set. There are other more advanced sets which will be released soon. a second set, and a third set, and then there's 2 others. There's actually 3 others. So there's a lot more. If you can't get enough of this stuff, don't worry. And each time you go up a level, it expands exponentially. So when you do the Awakening the Immortals and the Celestial Qigong, and you move up to the 5 elements, there's going to be an exponential, huge shift in Qi energy. And then when you move to the first set, there's going to be another exponential, huge shift in energy. And it keeps going. It gets so powerful. I had to stop multiple times. In fact, by the time you get to the third set, if you're able to master that set, the energy is so intense, you will exit your body. My teacher's teacher, it happened to him. It happened with me with the fire set of the 5 elements. I did the fire set, and I had an out-of-body experience. So this is the level of power we're talking about. And the only way that you're going to know I'm telling you the truth is if you do the practices. Anyway, so again, go to live guided meditations every Wednesday and Saturday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time for free, or go and watch the recorded ones on the live section of this channel. And then when you're ready, you know where to go. thunderwizard.com, click on shop, or maoshan.thunderwizard.com. That's it, my friends. I love you all. There's a lot more we can talk about in terms of the truth of the multiverse, but we'll leave it there for now. I love you all. Please be very good to yourselves. I will see you all very soon.